welcome to the Lalantia show. Today I'm coming on to do a review of the Ethereal Visions Illuminated Tarot deck. So I love to use tarot cards in my practice. I do card pulls for myself. I do card pulls for social media, and I love to work with tarot and oracle decks as kind of a hook for the energy. So I also love the art. I love the experience of working with them. They're not always necessary, but they help to dig out more layers oftentimes. So there's a lot of different ways that we can use them in our practice, but for me, I find that they are super useful and just like an added layer, really. So I started doing reviews and just talking about some of the decks that I have, or like as I get them, talking about them, because I find that for myself, when I'm thinking about getting a deck, I look on YouTube to find out what other people are saying. Now, also, I have a lot of followers that are like, they may see me posting the cards on social media and they're like, oh, hey, like I want to learn more about that deck to see if it's for me. So that's kind of the idea here. So I'm just going to give you guys just a little bit of an idea of what this deck is like. I dropped a couple of cards on the floor. So first of all, there's not many tarot decks that I have that are the traditional style tarot that have like the normal, traditional, ways of the cards being like the traditional way, like the Rider-Waite style. And so I don't know what it was about this deck. I still don't really feel like I understand, but there's something that was really drawing me to this deck. Now, when I got the deck, this was a couple months ago, I think, but I just kept like feeling like I needed the deck. I didn't understand why I needed it, but it just kept coming into my awareness. Now, there are a lot of decks that I see and I'm like, oh, that looks really beautiful. I really want that. But I kind of like let myself sit on it for a little while, because if I don't, then I'm just going to have I'm going to have a problem. I'm going to have way too many decks. And in a way, I don't really feel like that's a bad thing. Like I can always pass my decks on to other people, but there has to be some sort of limit there. So I kind of have a rule for myself to let myself think about it for a while. Now there are some deck creators or authors whose decks I always get, or almost always get. So for example, Lucy Cavendish, I love her decks so much. I will almost always get her decks. Like there are maybe a couple of hers that I haven't really felt drawn to, but most of them I will automatically get them just because they're her. And I know that there's going to be incredible energy there. Now, this deck is totally different from anything I've ever gotten before. Completely different. I don't even own the traditional Rider-Waite, the original, like I don't own a Rider-Waite deck at all. So I haven't had any traditional tarot decks. I have decks that they kind of change the words, like they're the different elements, that kind of thing. So that might have been one reason why I needed it, or why I felt called to it, but it was when I got it, the energy was so incredible. Now, I just realized that I haven't actually introduced myself. So if you're new here, my name is Lalantia. I'm a psychic realm channeler and energy healer. I specialize in working with the magical realms. I work with dragons, unicorns, mermaids, fairies, all different kinds of magical beings. And that's kind of my specialty. But I also work with ascended masters, regular guides, gods, goddesses. I work with all different kinds of energies, galactic beings I sometimes work with. I often work with, actually. They've been coming forward more and more over the past few years. And my work is all about connecting you to the truth of who you really, truly are, like your most authentic self. And that is always a journey that we're on as long as we're alive. But once you awaken to the fact that the world that we live in is so much illusions, and who we really truly are is buried underneath the conditioning, the fears, the beliefs that we formed, like the more you recognize that, the more you can release those boxes that you have been put in and the traumas that have kept you in this repeating cycles. So how does this connect to working with tarot cards? So you guys, if you follow me on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, You may find that I post tarot/oracle card spreads for the full moon and the new moon. Now, I also use spread a very in-depth spread in my membership group, which is called Realms of Empowerment. In that spread is totally deep. Now, I have a journal that comes out in that group every month, but at the end, I take it deeper with the spread. So when I created these spreads, the intention was that it would allow you to look deeper at things that you're not seeing on your own. So this will allow you to do the healing or the releasing that needs to be done in order for you to deepen your connection to yourself, and so many other things, the steps you need to be taking, all of that stuff. So definitely check out my spreads that I have posted. But for now, here are my thoughts on this tarot deck, because I have been jabbering long enough already, right? So the box, first of all, it's published by the US game system. So it is it's a pretty decent box. Some of theirs are a little bit different. This is a pretty sturdy, but it is regular sized. It is a great box. I like the box. It's no problems there. Now, the book is very simple, typical kind of US games in my experience. They could have some that are better, but I would say that, it's pretty typical. It just has the basic meanings of the cards, not really going deep. It's like pretty tiny. 4 of Cups, upright, meditation, resentment, apathy, discontentment, reverse, boredom, inexperience, depression, separation. Very, very simple meanings. That's fine. It's tarot. I don't really have a problem with that. I also love to use a book that takes me a little bit deeper, but also gives other perspectives. There are lots of books out there. The one that I use is by Michelle T. It is called Modern Tarot, I think. Yeah, Modern Tarot by Michelle T. Now, Michelle T is hilarious. I love her stuff. But the book is fantastic. So if I need a deeper meaning other than, I actually kind of like this a little bit because it allows my own intuition in there a little bit more. Even if I look it up and I see that, it's like, oh, okay, and well, I know what this means, and then I can expand on it on my own, right? It gives me that hook because I am a psychic. I am very, very intuitive. So once I have that hook, I can go deeper on my own. Now, if I'm struggling or if I have a block to seeing it for myself or some kind of resistance, then I can look in my Modern Tarot book, and Michelle T can tell me her perspective on the different cards. So in the book, it has all of the different cards. So the book itself, very, very simple. It's like the most basic thing, but it works just fine. I have no problems with that. You're not paying for the book. Also, I should tell you the deck does not list the price. I didn't even look it up, so I guess you guys can look up the price. I have no idea what it is. I don't think it was that much. I don't think it was over $20, but I could be wrong. So here's what the backs look like. So one reason that I think I was really called to this is the gold. So that is the Tower. So this kind of gives you an idea. See, this gold is just, I don't know that it's showing out very well on here, but it is really beautiful. It really pops out. Another thing is what I learned when I got the deck is that it definitely has a lot of energy. Now, I believe that our own energy kind of activates the cards. So it's just about, what is right for you. So the energy can be different for you. But for me, I definitely felt the energy, and I was a little bit surprised because it is so not my typical style. It is not really what I considered me. Like, I look at this art and I'm like, well, I love the gold. Some of the cards, I like the art. I don't love the art on all of them, but the energy is there. The messages are very clear. I have no problems in getting the messages. And also, I think it was like a day after I got the deck, I was in a client session and one of the cards came forward. So I've never had this happen in this way, but I was channeling for my client and the card came in my awareness. So I knew the message for her. by that card, because I knew what that card meant, because it's tarot, right? There's a system. So I knew what that card meant. And so actually, I think it was this, I think it might have been this card actually. Funny enough, I'm telling the story. I think it was the Empress. And so that was really interesting. The other thing I felt from the deck is that it has a bit of a personality. Now, we could say that about like every deck has a little bit of a personality, right? But this deck was a little bit louder in its personality. This deck wanted to be sitting on my, maybe it was a High Priestess that had come up for her. Now I can't remember if it was the Empress or the High Priestess. I can't remember what the message was. But the deck wanted to sit for a while on my altar, which I think is good anyways. When you get a new deck, you know, set it out. It didn't want to be in the box. So I took the cards out of the box. I put them on my altar. You know, I spent time with them each day, but it definitely had a personality. And I really was surprised when one of the cards showed up when I was in a client session. Like, it just popped up. And I work as a channel, so I was tuned into the energy. I was seeing things, and all of a sudden there's this card there. Actually, I don't know if there was the card there. It was more like the Empress or the High Priestess, whichever one it was standing in front of me. So it wasn't that I saw the card. I saw like the High Priestess, like there in front of me. I think it might have been the High Priestess. But anyways, I saw her standing there and I was like, okay, who are you? And she told me the High Priestess or the Empress, whichever one it was. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. So that's one thing that I find is really interesting, that they're showing up more like in that way for me. I don't know that I'm going to go through the whole deck here. I feel like I could probably keep jabbering for a little bit longer and show you the rest of the cards, and you can just not listen to me if you don't want to. But yeah, I find that I don't love the art. It's not all my favorite. I do love the gold a lot, but it is the energy. Now, the cards themselves, the card stock is very high quality. Actually, these are perfect for doing readings, especially if you do in-person readings. I think that these are sturdy enough. They're easy to shuffle, and they don't get the funny edges. So I'm sure those of you who have lots of card decks know what the funny edges are all about, because for me, it's one thing that drives me crazy, and I don't have very many decks that don't get funny edges. So these ones are definitely kind of made for being used really often, like in person, if you're doing a lot of in-person readings, especially if other people are handling the cards, or you're doing client after client after client and you're using cards. I don't use cards in most of my client sessions. I rarely ever use cards in my client sessions. But yeah, so they're very good for that. So by now you're getting an idea if the art is for you. I think that one's nice. Temperance. Getting close-ish. Well, there's still ways to go here. So overall, I am pretty happy with the deck, even though I wouldn't like look at the art and be like, oh my goodness, this art is amazing. For me, it's all about the energy that's in these cards. They talk to me. They really, really talk to me. And I guess it's just something that they just kind of activate in me that makes my readings like really powerful. I love to draw from this deck for getting the general energy of the month. So I might draw like 2 cards. What is the main energy of the month? And then I'll draw cards from other decks. But I like to use my tarot for getting like, I guess tarot is great because it is a system. And so you can pinpoint the energy pretty easily by the card. Like, you can get really deep because of that system. All right, we're getting to the end now. Almost upside down. Oh, this one actually showed up in the monthly reading for September, and this one as well. So that is the deck. I definitely like it a lot, even though I don't love the art. For some reason, the energy is incredible. So I do recommend it, and the quality is amazing. I think the cardstock is fantastic. I'm fine with the book being simple. The box is great. So I don't really have any complaints about it. You know, it's all about personal taste when it comes to art. And so, you know, if you don't like the art, then it's probably not for you. But I didn't really love the art, and I still knew I had to have this deck. And it is my tarot deck that I do go to and use like the most, I guess. Even though I don't use tarot cards that much, I still use it the most. And like I said, it speaks to me. So that is my thoughts on it. I would give it, this one is a hard one to rate because I think that this would be a 5-star. But because I don't actually love the art, it's just a personal taste thing. So 5 stars well, maybe I should say 4.5, just because the book is a very, very simple, but to me, that's not really a big deal. So maybe 4.5 stars. Because I don't actually love the art, I'm going to say 4 stars because everything else is there, and it's really about the energy and all of that. So I really like this deck. If you feel called to the art, if you like the art, then definitely get this deck because everything else is amazing. And I will say it's a personal taste thing. You know, like when you see somebody's art, you feel like a horrible person when you say, I don't really love the art. It's all about personal taste. So there's nothing against the artist of this, which is Matt Hughes, by the way, the creator of this deck and the artist. So I don't know, it's not like, the art is fantastic for some people. It's just my preferred style is different. You know, I love the magical elements. I love the tarot decks that are more magical. I love the Wildwood Tarot. I love the Enchanted Forest Tarot or Forest of Enchantment, whichever way it goes. I love those decks because they're magical, but they also are not the quality that this is as far as the cards themselves. This is definitely a higher quality cards themselves, but those have better books. So if you want a good book, those ones are good, but they are definitely a more magical energy, which is more me. So this deck, I don't know why it speaks to me so much, but I do love it. It does speak to me a lot, and I get the messages that I need. It's very simple. And, you know, if you know the tarot system, the cards are going to be super easy for you to read anyways. So I guess that's my thoughts. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that you'll check out my other videos. I hope that you'll subscribe to my channel if you liked this video. And yeah, check out my social media, Lalantia Makana. I'm on Instagram, on Facebook. You can join me and you can see my tarot spreads for each full moon and new moon. All right, I will see you guys on the next one.